Water companies have said customers will have to foot the bill after promising to tackle the amount of polluted water discharged into rivers and seas. Not fair, say some.
We have given them the money they needed to build and fix and maintain these sewers. They've clearly not done that job. What they should be offering up is a £10 billion rebate for a service we've never got.
The government has called on water companies in England to put consumers above profits after an angry backlash to a suggestion by the firms that bills would have to increase to help cut the amount of sewage being discharged into rivers and the sea. The suppliers have issued an unprecedented apology for the spills and announced plans to spend £10 billion making improvements. But critics have accused them of shifting the cost onto their customers. Here's our environment correspondent, Jonah Fisher.
The apology from the water companies came with a proposal to fix the problem. £10 billion to be spent by 2030 to modernise England's ageing sewage infrastructure. Bigger pipes would be built, sewage treatment plants upgraded, and huge tanks constructed to stop the system being overwhelmed in heavy rain. The number of sewage spills happening every year is in the hundreds of thousands, and they have consequences, as one caller from Cornwall told the BBC.
One of my work colleagues and his wife went swimming off the coast of Torquay last summer, and they got very ill and discovered from going to the hospital they both got dysentery. He had to be off work for several months. I just couldn't believe that you get dysentery from swimming off the coast in Devon.
Who will pay for the upgrades promised by the water companies? Well, say the utilities, the customers will have to bear the cost through years of higher bills. Not fair, according to Fergal Sharkey, the musician and a campaigner for cleaner rivers.
What I'm actually hearing is no apology for the fact we've paid them for a service we haven't got. They're now suggesting that we should pay them a second time for a service we haven't had. We should have an apology for the suggestion they're going to put bills up by £10 billion for their incompetence and their greed. This is nothing to celebrate whatsoever.
For years, the water companies have attracted criticism for their profits, dividends paid to shareholders and executive pay levels. So I asked James Bentley of Thames Water why customers should be the ones to pay.
The system isn't good enough. We have apologised for that.
You're a big part of the system.
We are a part of the system. And for many decades, many decades, we've got Victorian systems in many cases.
That you haven't invested in?
They haven't been invested in, and we are investing in them. We are improving them, and it's going to take more time to do so.
By apologising, the water companies may have hoped to draw a line under the mistakes of the past. By asking for more money, they've all but guaranteed that discussions about their role will rumble on.
The discharge of contaminated waters into rivers and seas has become an important issue for voters, prompting all the major parties in England to pledge to be tough on polluting companies. Our political correspondent Jonathan Blake considers why sewage is now such a dirty word at Westminster.
Sewage has shot up the political agenda. The Liberal Democrats claim to have cottoned on to concerns about it first. Their leader, Sir Ed Davey, said that in the recent local elections in England, it had become a bigger issue than potholes. His party has called for a ban on water company bosses getting bonuses until the issue of sewage being dumped into rivers and the sea is resolved. Sir Ed told The World at 1 on Radio 4 he was unimpressed by today's announcement.
I'm just worried it's far too little too late. By their own admission, this will only clear up half of the sewage spills, and I don't know why the government isn't getting tougher on them. Liberal Democrats have called for a sewage tax, an extra tax on their profits, to raise some of that money. The truth is they have been breaking the law in the way that they behaved in so many areas.
Last month, Labour tried to force a vote in the House of Commons on plans to tighten rules around the discharge of sewage. The government responded by confirming its own proposals, including investment in water infrastructure and unlimited fines for companies that dump sewage illegally. This morning, the leader of the House of Commons, Penny Mordaunt, told MPs the government was tackling the problem.
We have a clear, funded plan to end storm overflows. This is incredibly important to our coastal communities, and we need to stick to those facts.
The Green Party said it was outrageous that bill payers would have to pay for the mismanagement of a vital resource. Downing Street urged companies to put consumers above profits and said investment in infrastructure should not disproportionately affect consumer bills. But there is no prospect of the government making an intervention, as it did to limit the far greater rise in energy bills, for example, and some cost to customers seems inevitable.